There's two tools that like I push first time users to. Subcategories is one, and the other is brands. It's basically every brand on Amazon. We have 1.3 million brands that we're tracking. From you got the Apples and Amazons, Amazon Basics and Samsung, down to Halo, the baby product, Pilot, Bounty, Blooming Jelly. There's just so many brands, and some of them do tens of millions, some of them do only 1 million a month. This is kind of like where you could type in a competitor. I'm going to type in Cellucor. I like them because they're an energy drink brand. They're the energy drink C4 that's really popular in the US. They just happen to be grouped together. So it looks like they're doing about $8 million a month. Average price, $40. Looks like they are a 1P brand. We have Amazon's in stock rate. This is like 92% of their products are in stock with Amazon as the dominant seller. More data columns, 1 month growth, 12-month growth. Let's look at this. 12-month growth, 58%. I like this brand because they invest so heavily in Amazon. They are very innovative and just push. So
yeah, I remember there's a pre-workout like
yeah.
Now C4.
Their pre-workout I think is their number one. They also just sell just energy drinks. Yeah, here we go. Watermelon ice. I get a headache if I drink this stuff. I kid you not. Like I do drink energy drinks like one a day, but these ones are just too much for me. So we look at, an in-depth report. Here's their top level information. I'm actually going to generate what we call a tailored report. This takes a second to generate because they have 166 ASINs. And what we do is we're going to create a very fresh report. This probably takes like 2 minutes. I actually can come back to that. Oh, it's already moving. But this is, how we were looking at the subcategories. Now we're looking at the brand view and showing the subcategories that they're in. So energy drinks, sports nutrition pre-workout powders, sports nutrition endurance and energy powders. I don't know these categories. I don't know, testosterone boosters. I didn't know that Cellucor was trying to do that, but here they are. And, they have a good size market share, like 10% of pre-workout. So they're actually probably a market leader. They're probably in the top 3. I'm sure it's a very competitive category. And we can see, how they're doing. We could jump straight into, I can get lost in these tabs. So don't let me get too far. I'm trying to be, this search terms is what we call our Ad Spy tool, where we're looking at specific places that they are winning ads. C4 energy drink. They're winning the top spot 46% of the time. Alani energy drink. They're only winning that top spot 3% of the time. We show sponsor brand win rate and sponsor video win rate and an estimate spend on those keywords. So yeah, this is where we look at a brand and we look at the brand's keywords that they're advertising on. So very
detailed.
These
are not Scott, are the search terms, those are not organically where the ranking is it? Or that's only sponsored?
These are only sponsored.
Okay. Is there a way to see organic?
Yeah. We do. We just happen to be in this Ad Spy.
Of course.
And we're looking at it at a brand level. One thing that's a little bit like takes a little bit of getting used to is like, am I looking at a brand or am I looking at a product? And so, when you're thinking brand wide, like, it's kind of like when you're thinking like the bird's eye view. Let's actually look at a specific product, their pre-workout, and our organic tool it's called Rank Maker. If you're familiar with like the reverse ASIN lookup tools, this will show probably has a ton of keywords, being one of the top.
So it's going to reverse ASIN, I would say, for listeners, viewers. It's when we take an ASIN and then we can see all the keywords that it's ranking for. So here we're going to see the reverse ASIN for the brand, for all the keywords that the brand is ranking for, or only
I actually selected a product.
Okay.
Yeah, I selected a specific product. Here's where I was.
Yeah.
I looked at this.
Correct.
I clicked on this hourglass and I was like, okay, take me to Rank Maker on this product.
On this one.
Yeah. And now I'm here and I'm like, okay, Here's where they're ranked number one,
Mhm.
number one, number one, number one, number one. They got a lot of number ones. They have 2,800 keywords that they're on the first 40. We actually only track the first
Mm.
page right
Mm-hmm.
now. We might be building out at least a few more pages to watch things. C4 pre-workout. So like that's, 73,000 search volume. This has been rank 3, in the last month, but it's popped up to number 1. I bet you when it's rank 3, it's competing against itself. I'm sure there's other C4 products that are ranking number 1, but the latest that we saw was number 1. You know, they got pages and pages of number 1. So what I'm actually going to try and do is I'm going to do a minimum search volume of 100, just so I
Mm.
see only their top keywords.
Mm-hmm.
Man, these guys have a lot. That's why I like looking at this brand, because just how competitive they are. Pre-workout for women, there they are. So you could click through and actually see what's going on. Yeah, here they are. They're the best seller.
On the left here, we see ASINs, and we sometimes have three ASINs, let's say. Is it
Yeah.
variations of the same of
So
the
the variant that shows in the image can
uh-huh.
change. So
Hmm.
look, here we have a C4 right here. This is like the
Mm-hmm.
organically ranked one. It's showing this flavor watermelon, but sometimes we're seeing another variation. So we just give the ASINs that we see in the variation organically. It may be a little confusing, but we're just trying to like reflect how is this variation family of products being seen.
All
So
right. So sometimes, if I understand you correctly, so you have three here: blue raspberry,
yeah,
fruit punch, watermelon. Sometimes on page number one, not necessarily on page number one, just the main variation, let's say, pops up in search. Sometimes it shows another one, and or that's what you
yeah,
mean, kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we're saying that for C4 ripped pre-workout, we have seen this variant, and this variant. Whereas C4 pre-workout original, we've only seen
Just
these two.
got it.
We just kind of treat like the family of products together as one. That's why we're showing these multiple ASINs. That may make more sense if you're trying to target certain flavor names. And because I don't think sellers actually have control always what variation is to be shown.
Not that I know, man. I don't know
I've
how it
heard some
decides.
tricks. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
tricks, but I've never heard like, it's not like just guaranteed every single time going to work this way. So that's when we jump into a product, we could actually see the search terms and keywords. It doesn't take very long for us to realize like just how much, how lost you can get in the data
Mm-hmm.
because, Cellucor has 100 brands. So we try and just organize it the best we can. Here's something interesting. How well is this brand doing internationally?
Mm-hmm.
So Cellucor, 8 million a month in the US, but nothing really in the other marketplaces. This is in other currencies. So it's a pretty novel amount. They do 200,000 in Canadian a month. That's probably one of their bigger ones. This is
Mm-hmm.
Mexican pesos. That's not really anything at all. So yeah, before I get lost into these other shows, let's do this tailored report. There we go. It loaded up. So this is a fresh poll on their revenue and all their ASINs. Kind of do the same thing where we give a lot of the top level views. We actually use this report to
Mm-hmm.
try and talk to brands about like, hey, this is your top product on Amazon. Here's your
Mm-hmm.
top competitor. We see unique keywords. And then, yeah, so this is just like a full report on the brand. So
Mm-hmm.
here's the best way to explain this. So when I was
Yeah.
dating my now wife, her dad, he's a business guy. He knows a lot about business, but he doesn't know anything about internet businesses. I found every single time I talked to him about selling on Amazon, like it was just a disconnect. We just weren't talking the same language.
Mm-hmm.
But one time, like for a fourth or fifth time jumping into it, my wife was out at lunch. He brings up business again, and I'm like, this is what we do. And then like we started talking about revenue. We started talking about competition. We started talking about market share and just like and gross margin. And like once we hit those like main like business numbers that for someone to read this report, they don't have to be Amazon knowledgeable. to
Mm-hmm.
kind of see that like, hey, this brand is doing great year over year. They're up considerably from one period to the next. And, here's the categories that they're in and who some of their
Mm-hmm.
competition is. So
Mm.
once we started saying these ideas, like it kind of helps an Amazon person communicate to a non-Amazon person. That's kind of the idea of this report that we build. So shoot, we've just showcased the main two tools, but I haven't asked you a question. What type of Amazon seller do you interface with the most? I mean, you're a private label seller, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing that I didn't show off that I think is worth just looking at is we throw every single brand into this data grid,
Okay.
and what that allows you to do is just filter. You're like, okay, show me every baby brand. Okay, show me every baby brand between 1 million and max of 5 million. We don't want the brands that are too big.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Show me the brands that have a dominant seller in, I don't know, let's look at the Chinese brands. So here we have 36 baby brands that kind of fit this criteria. Or maybe we want to look at the brands that start in started in the US and 133 baby brands. Okay, show me the number of baby brands that have like, the average number of sellers. Like, do they have like resellers on that? Let's say 2 to 4. So we took 1 million brands and we filtered this down to like the 29 brands that fit this criteria. And we could jump and look at each one of them. I recognize a few of these brands. I've got a 2-year-old. We have an outlet. I've heard of some of these. And so that's kind of one of the unique use cases of the brands tool. So kind of like when people start out with SmartScout, I'm like, okay, look at the subcategories tool. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just like, oh, like that's possible to like see Amazon, that way. And this brands tool, same thing. 1 million brands on Amazon. How do I filter around and like look at my competition, my categories? Those are the two main things.